Hello and welcome to Design Basics. In this video, we're going to talk about the circular pattern in both the sketch form and the feature form. So to begin, we're going to just go into a model I designed already with a sketch I have, and we're going to go into that sketch and do a circular pattern. So we're going to choose the circular pattern in the sketch. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select the information that I want to, or geometry where we want to circular pattern. So very similar to a rectangular pattern, but different at the same time. Then we're going to choose the rotational point. So in this instance, I want to use the center point, but we could actually use this point here. It would look a little different, but I'm going to actually choose the center point here. And as you can see, it's going to pattern it quite nicely. Now you choose the pattern itself to be about, let's say 360 degrees, which is a circle. I could say 180, so it only patterns at about 180 degrees. Or so on and so forth. So you have to really figure out your angles that you want to pattern it about. Alternatively speaking, you can also suppress features. So one great thing with doing this style is you could suppress, let's say, one feature, but keep it spaced at, let's say, 6 geometries. So that's one thing to note. I normally don't like to suppress because you can do that in the extrusions itself. So we're going to go and choose these features here. And then we're going to do cut and state through all. So now that we have that done, you can see that we have this circular pattern that cut out the geometry. It almost looks like a little gear. And then essentially that's how you do the sketched version. Next, we're going to do the feature version. So to do the feature, we're going to try something a little different compared to the rectangular pattern feature. We're going to actually choose all the pieces that we've already used. So there's two ways of doing this. One would be per individual feature, and that would just be selecting all the features you want in your design tree. The other way would be to do the pattern solid. So depending on your software, you may not have this, you may have it, just depends. Next, what we're going to do is choose the axis. So if you didn't create a new axis, then we're going to use one that's pre-existing. So in this case, I'm going to just go through the highlighted ones. I don't want any of them outside of the y-axis. And when I use it, you can see it patterns it right away with them interfering. So I'm going to just change this to 5 for now. So it's going to be 5 patterned around 360 degrees. And I'm going to explain what these orientation features do. So there's going to be rotational and fixed. So rotational would mean that this corner or this edge here is always going to be facing the center. As you can see, each one is facing the center point. As opposed to fixed, it actually keeps it the same orientation as it rotates around. So that'd be very good to keep an idea of if you are wanting it to be orientated a certain way. But in this case, I actually do want it to be rotational. The next thing that I'm going to go into is these options up here. So there's two, there's join and create new bodies. So if I go create new bodies and I click OK, you'll see that there's this interference of these separate parts. So if I go back into the feature and choose join, you'll see that they're now complete. So this would be more useful if you want them to be separate for cosmetic reasons, not really for 3D printing, but it's something still good to know in case you need to try that out. There's also a case of changing this to be the midplane, but since we're doing 360 degrees, that won't change it. Now I'm going to open up this here, and we're going to go into the positioning method. These ones I don't really touch the creation method, but I do choose the positioning method sometimes. So we're using fitted, which means it'll fit it in a specific degree, such as 360 degrees. But if we use incremental, it's going to change that. So if I change 360 degrees to, let's say, 65 degrees or 60 degrees, you see that it's now evenly spaced because each one is spaced 60 degrees apart. But if I changed it to 75, you can see that they're now spaced differently again. So this would be another good way if you know how many degrees you want each one apart. That is just the way to use it. I typically like using fitted, but there is certain circumstances you want to have a certain degree in there. So if we go back to 360, we're now back to what we have with the fitted. So those are typically the two options you'd use for the rotational feature. So once I click OK, we have essentially made our patterns. It looks a little funky. So that's how you use the circular pattern as a feature in Sketch. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Otherwise, this is Tyler with 3D Printer Store, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.